direction. But it's funny because I ran into somebody, this is probably a couple years ago. He's like, yeah, man, did you know what I've been jamming lately? And I'm like, oh, what's that? And he's like, Breach, man. And I was like, oh, God. I said, don't do that to yourself. And he's like, man, but no, dude, they used to have this girl, man. And she sang. And I was like, oh, no, 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 no. That was me. And they were like, oh, no, 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 it was a girl. And I was like, no, man, I'm telling you, I was there. I know it was me. And they're like, no, man, really, it's a girl. And I'm like, okay. They just didn't understand. I'm like, look, dude, I was 18. I said, I guess my voice hadn't changed yet or what, but I promise you that was me.
Yeah.
So
Hey, everybody out in YouTube land. My name is Mike, and I love guitars. And this is another episode of the We Love Guitars podcast. Today, I've got the one and only Mr. Jason Touchette from Southeast Texas. From my hometown area. He's agreed to join us today. Jason is, for years and years, he was in the band Podunk. He's currently in the band Catalina Wine Mixer, the Curse and the Cure. And then creating a monster. Is that
create a monster?
create a monster? Okay, yeah. And for those like the real old school diehards, you were also in Holidays Inn.
Yes, I was.
I have seen the old videotapes of that. That was some good stuff, man.
And the drummer. I was the drummer.
Yes. Yes. So Jason, you are most well known as a singer and lead guitar player, but yeah, you started as a drummer, and you a very, very good one at that.
Yeah, it's funny. Thank you, by the way. But
Yep.
it's funny because I think when you're younger, when I was young, I mean, like young, like 5 years old, I
Yeah.
had to do music. I don't know what it was. I mean, my mom and dad, poor things, they had to deal with me. And it was like my mom was like, you're beating on everything, and I'm breaking coat hangers, and every time I turn around, she's like, we got to get this kid some drums.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they finally did. And it's hard to imagine. I guess it's because it was my first instrument, and you know I hit it with such a passion and fury that I would have never thought I would do anything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So fast forward, when my bedroom, it was like every every poster on the wall was a drum set or drummers or whatever, and every band I played in, I played drums, and I
Yeah.
think it was when I met Paul Sorosky that he was like, look, you're writing all these songs and showing them to our guitar player. Like, why don't you come from behind the kit and play guitar and sing?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was like, at first I was like, oh man, I don't know if I could do that, because being a front man, you can be a guitar player, but you got to be a guitar player and a front man.
Yeah.
And so it was a little bit of a scare for me, because the first gig we ever played as Podunk was a sold out show at the Back Room in
Yeah.
Austin, Texas. And not that it was sold out because of us or because of anything. It was a big record label uh, party deal. There was other really good bands on the bill, but it was sold out for all of us.
Yeah.
And man, my knees were shaking that night, because I was like, "Oh my God, I have to talk in a microphone to people," and so. But
Yeah.
yeah, come a long way since those days. But
Well,
love the
it's
drums.
interesting that you mentioned that, because I obviously am a guitar player. I've been a guitar player most of my life. Um, and like I originally started as a singer, because like as a young kid, I was like the choir boy, basically doing all the church stuff with my parents. And, um, And I had horrible stage presence as a singer, but it was something like the pieces just like fit into place in my head when I picked up a guitar.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's a whole like having stage presence as a singer and having stage presence as a guitar player are two wholly different things.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. And like I said, I still to this day, like again, I'm not a singer. I can sing. I'm not a singer, but like getting up there and getting on a stage and trying to sing, I still feel awkward to this day. Whereas getting up on stage with a guitar, like that's my zone.
Yeah.
So it is interesting. It's like they're so close, but at the same time, like two wholly different things.
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine what it was like to make the transition from drummer to not just guitar player, not just singer, but singer guitar player.
Yeah, yeah, and then too, you're tied down. They put your microphone stand in the middle, and here you are, and you got a pedal board down there, and this guitar here, and you're singing a rhythm out of your mouth, while this hand and this hand is playing a different rhythm on the guitar, while you're
Yeah.
trying to stomp on boxes. I mean, it's a very
It's
ambidextrous.
it's
Uh,
almost like a drummer thing with all the limbs doing different
and
activities.
and I really do credit my drumming to that. I mean, it helped me with all of that. It really helped me with songwriting. It helped me with not overplaying, playing more for the song, whether
Yeah.
if it's drums or guitar or vocals or any of it. Less is more a lot of the times. And
Yeah.
as I grew older and had a little bit less to prove, I really understood that less is more. And it's funny because now people will ask me, hey, what's your favorite part of the song? And I'm like, the part where there's nothing going on.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't for the part where there's nothing, it doesn't set that part with nothing sets up what's coming.
Yeah.
And it's that anticipation for it that knocks you in the head. So
My
I don't know,
response to
man.
that is dynamics is a beautiful thing.
Oh, absolutely. And so, but yeah, yeah, man. It was a role that I accepted, and once when I got that first show under my belt, I thought to myself, okay, well, I think I can do this. I just had to make it as make it as easy on myself as I could, and what I would tell the guys is, look, I'm not I'm not going to be political in between songs. I'm not going to try to be a comedian. I'm not going to give everybody my opinions on the world or I just want to sing rock and roll.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, we and I would joke and say, "Hey, man, it makes us more mysterious if I don't say a whole lot." And we'll
Yeah.
just hit them in the face with our music, and so
Yeah.
I took that approach to it. Now, don't get me wrong, as I got more comfortable, I probably did talk a little bit more in between songs, and you know maybe said some funny stuff. Probably not. Who knows? But yeah, we tried to keep it simple like that so that we could really just concentrate on the music.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair. So real quick, I want to go way, way, way back because I met you and the guys in Podunk around 93. I don't
Was that
remember.
you're gonna have to help me on my timeline? Was that Ugly Tribe days?
No, this is pre Ugly Tribe.
Okay.
Because if you remember my senior year of high school, which was 93 to 94, you, our moms knew each other.
Yes. Yeah, they did.
And you guys, Podunk, had a practice room on Pure Atlantic Highway in Port Neches,
We sure did. Yeah.
which was like a mile from the high school I graduated from Port Neches Groves High School.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
would leave school every day because you guys practiced every day.
Yeah.
So I would leave school. I wouldn't go home. I would just drive straight to y'all's practice room and
Well, I
just,
remember. I remember too. Didn't you get Brian's custom Les Paul?
well, I was going to get there. Yes. To kind of
Okay.
like to tie everything together For a while, I was actually taking guitar lessons from you at your house.
I remember. I remember.
And then that's when Brian Jones had both the 79 and the 80 natural finish Les Paul standards.
Dude, I've never seen a kid more happy to get that guitar. And I know it's one of your favorites. It's, but it's I remember that like it was yesterday. There it is. Look at it.
Still have it to this day. Still my number
Golly.
one to this day. I love this guitar. This guitar is a part of me.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, he had a 79, this one, and an
Yeah.
80. He played the 80.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I was there the night at y'all's practice room where you guys got done practicing, and he goes, "Well, I think it's time for me to carve my initials in the back of this thing." And he, in his 80, he just carved his initials in the back of it, like right there in front of it. Like,
Yeah.
cool,
It's
man.
like that's like
Um,
old Kirk Hammett does with his. Yeah.
yeah. And this is the one, for whatever reason, it just sat in the case. He never played it.
Yeah.
So he decided to sell it. And I don't know if you remember this, but I took, like, when I graduated high school at the end of May in 94, my extended family came in because high school graduation is always a big deal in my family. And like
Sure.
the whole family would come for the graduation ceremony. Well, my whole family comes in and we have this party after the graduation ceremony, and my whole family's like giving me money to go to college. I took every penny, literally. My mom had to give me a few extra, she had to give me like 50 extra bucks. But I took every penny that my extended family gave me to go to college, and I bought this guitar from Brian Jones. And I have never regretted it for a day.
Yeah, I
Like
know,
this,
man. That's why I'm glad you got that guitar because I get it. I understand what a guitar can mean, to somebody, and it's really cool to hear those stories and to know that that guitar was meant for you. It was meant to find you and you to find it, however it happened. But you
yeah.
still have it and you still love it probably more today than you did when you got it. So
Um,
that's a good story, man.
my wife, we've already had the discussion. If I were to drop dead tomorrow, there's like two or three guitars that she's not allowed to sell. Like all the rest of them, just do what you have to do. That guitar goes to my son. Period. End of story.
Yeah,
And then I have two guitars that I inherited from my dad, which would not be sold. But
yeah,
that guitar is for my son when I'm gone. Like period.
right. Oh
So
yeah, it's got to
um,
be.
yeah, and it's like I said, I took every penny my family gave me for college, gave it every penny of it to Brian, and have never regretted it. So one other kind of interesting, kind of funny thing, back when I mentioned that for a little while I was actually taking guitar lessons from you when I was in high school. I remember, I don't know if you still have it, but I remember you had a Giannini acoustic. Do you still
I
have that?
do.
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
do. It's hanging on the wall in my living room. And
Yeah.
it's become more of a piece of art for me than a player. Just because man, I probably wrote. I know I wrote all of Merlin's Dock on that guitar, and probably 90% of Throwing Bones
Yeah.
on that acoustic. And it's been beat to hell and back. And I thought, well, I could keep, dragging it along and playing on it and beating it around, or I could just let it retire, and so that it's still even able to be hung on a wall.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I did, man. I just kind of retired it, but yeah, I see it every day. I walk into my house; it's on the
That,
wall.
that's awesome. You were actually the first. That was the first time I'd ever seen a Giannini in person. I think the only other time I've ever really seen one, I think that band in the '90s, Four Non Blondes. I think
Yes,
the singer had one, and that was the only other time I had ever seen a
ever.
Giannini.
I know. And when that video came out, I was like, "Oh my God, I didn't know another person had a guitar like this."
Yeah,
So
because
that was
they
kind
are
of,
a very unique looking acoustic.
yes. And it's funny because, that was my first guitar. That was my first guitar. not and my dad. So my mother bought that for my dad
Yeah.
in 1969. I
Wow.
was I was born in 72, so it's older than me. So what happened was is I when I was 5 years old, they bought me a drum set, and I was back then you would, I had a big stereo, and I'd have to set the needle to the record and then run behind my kit. And, that's how I learned, it was to play with the record,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
couldn't play too hard or I'd be playing way louder than what I could hear. And, but I can remember just, working on like the drum break and Jack and Diane and calling my friends and, saying, does this sound right? And,
Yeah.
uh, but when it would get too late to make all that racket on drums, I'll never forget. I walked into my dad's room and that Giannini was sitting on a stand in the corner. And my poor dad, he loved that guitar, but I was like, I'm taking this and I'm putting it in my room
Yeah.
because I had to have it. It's like they would say, okay, you got to cut the drums. It's getting late, and I'm like, I need more music. What can I do, And so
Yeah.
I grabbed that guitar and my dad taught me the G chord and the D chord, and that was it. That was my first and last music lesson. I hit it like same way I did with drums. I could not put it down,
Yeah.
and I can remember even being in school. Uh, once I hit my freshman year, and I had like minded friends that were picking up guitar or already had picked it up like myself, or you know or whatnot. But we were always. Uh, bouncing ideas off of each other or teaching each other a new riff that we learned off of a new record that was hot at the time
Yeah.
or whatever. But whoop, sorry
Popo.
about
I didn't do it.
that. My first electric guitar was just right on, man. I could imagine it of being any crazy expensive guitar or anything like that. My first electric guitar was a Fender Squire Bullet,
Oh, I remember those. Yeah.
and it was kind of a shorter scale guitar. It was
Yep.
Fiesta Red, and I loved it, man. I love that guitar. I wish I still had it. I
Yeah.
do not, but yeah, man, Fender Squire Bullet. Very cheap guitar, and I beat that thing around for years until a little later on. But that was what I started on for
Yeah.
sure.
That's awesome. So how about how many guitars do you have like now? Do you even have an actual number?
I I don't have an actual, but I know, shoot, Mike, it's got to be close to 40.
Yeah. That sounds about right. I mean, I've seen pictures and I like every time Bill goes to your place, he takes pictures and he texts them to me. So,
Yeah, yeah,
I've seen a bunch
I
of stuff.
love it.
And so that's one of the reasons I really wanted to get you on because I've got like 30-ish. You've got
Yeah,
around
yeah,
40-ish, and like Shelby has 30 or 40, Ethan has 30 or 40. So it's like,
yeah. I talked to him and Ethan,
yeah.
and they got a pretty cool little collection going.
Oh, yeah, the very, very nice. They've got some really awesome pieces. Now you, at least for years, you were primarily a Strat guy, but I've also seen, in the last couple of years, pictures of lots of Les Pauls and things like that in your collection.
Yes,
Are you
I
still
have.
are you still mainly a Strat guy?
Live, yes.
Okay.
It's funny because, of course, I'm a huge Hendrix fan, Stevie Ray Vaughan, David Gilmour, a lot of these, big Strat players, of course.
Yeah.
But my two favorite bands in this whole world, and I don't know if you put a gun in my head, maybe say one before the other, I'd probably have an aneurysm. But Led Zeppelin
Yeah.
and AC/DC, man.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, because of their less is more kind of deal. I just
Yeah.
love it. But I just those all those cool pictures and videos, concert footage of Jimmy Page with slinging that Les Paul down low, man. That's just always had this huge impression on me. So so when I started playing, and it's like a Strat hit my hand, and it felt like another arm or something. It just
Yeah.
felt like it was perfect.
Yeah.
Where with a and of course, so like on a Strat, your tone and volume knobs are in line.
Yep.
Where with a Gibson Les Paul, they're in a box. And man, I when I'm playing live, it's like I said, with the pedals and the microphone, and you're playing all this stuff. I would always fumble every time I tried to play a Gibson Les Paul live. I would start trying to turn the wrong knob. I thought it was volume knob, but I'm turning a tone knob, and I'm like, oh man, and it
Yeah. Yeah.
just it just it ended up being, for me, it ended up being all the Gibsons that I've owned or plan to own. I use them in the studio,
Yeah.
so they
Yeah.
get played and they get used. But later on with Podunk, I took some guitars out that I have near me.
Sure.
I'll grab this one, but this is I love Explorers. I don't know if you could see this.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
Gorgeous.
is a '79 E2.
Yep.
And if you notice, the knobs are in line like a Strat. So this is very comfortable for me to play. I
Yeah.
don't fumble around on it. And it's got, it's a hot, rocking machine. And Leonard Skinner. I mean, you go on, the Edge. I mean, there's a lot of people that come to mind, but I just always love the shape. It seems like it wants to take off and fly or something. That's what
Yeah.
it's like a spaceship or something. But
Yeah. I've always said that Explorers are surprisingly comfortable to actually play because like they're pointy and they're a huge body. Like you wouldn't think that they're comfortable, but they're actually like they're
I love,
really comfortable to play.
yeah,
And
I love them.
I
I know,
do.
I know it's an acquired taste,
Yeah.
but I've always loved them.
I love them too, and I do really like the E2s because I love like the contour, like the bevels, I guess, on the top and bottom, for the like the silhouette of the body, just something a little different. I'm a big fan of anything that's why my least favorite Les Paul finishes are gold tops and Heritage Cherry Sunburst because everybody's got
Eh,
them,
yeah, I know.
and I like
Uh,
the unusual stuff.
yeah, no, I do too. Absolutely. I'm always. You can ask Norma. I'm always on reverb. I'm always looking, for the next, There's so many. You know,
There
it's
are.
funny because people ask that question. I'm sure you've asked this question to people that you interview. It's like, well, why do you have so many guitars? It's overkill, and man, there's so many different angles I can approach that question with. I mean, I know a lot of other people like Joe Bonamassa, who I've talked to at length about this kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
Joe
Yeah.
Joe's an awesome guy, man, super nice guy. Joe has a lot of guitars
Yes, he does.
and a
Yes.
lot of amps. But people ask him that all the time too. And my thing is that there's it's like kind of like baseball cards for kids that collect. There's a zillion baseball cards,
Yep.
and not everybody in the world collects those. There's a subculture of people who do.
Yeah.
Same thing with guitars. It
Absolutely.
it and if you're a player like we are, you're using them in the studio. You're using them as writing tools. They are tools in your toolbox.
Yes. Absolutely.
And when you get deep into it, because people will be like, "Well, man, you could give that guitar to a poor kid, that can't afford that but wants to play guitar." Dead right. And I've got a few awesome guitars I would love to give away,
Yeah.
and would in a heartbeat. But with that said, that old Fender Squire Bullet that I had was the perfect guitar for me to learn on.
Yeah.
because it was like at the time, it was like a $99 guitar. And, I think kids should start on a cheaper guitar
Yeah.
because you never know if they're going to stick with it, and it's probably not a smart idea to buy, a $3,000 custom shop Stratocaster for your 10-year-old.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And with that said, too, when you walk into a, Guitar Center or Sam Ash or Chicago Music Exchange or wherever you're at, there's guitars all over the wall. You can't even count them all. You know, it there's more guitars out there than there are people to buy them.
Yeah.
And I've never Joe never even put it that way. I just kind of that's kind of my thing. It's like once you have that understanding, it doesn't seem so like like I'm over here hoarding guitars. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't possibly uh you know mess up the market for owning the guitars that I have. There's so many
Absolutely.
more,
Absolutely.
you know.
And that's,
And my collection is nice, but it's not. I don't have a lot of super old stuff. That '79 is one of the oldest guitars that I have,
yeah.
and so yeah, I think it's for musicians that, and plus too, you have I'm way later with my, I've slowed down a ton since my podunk days and all that, but I probably owned eh, 10 guitars, when I was in podunk,
Yeah.
you know, so I've gotten another probably 30 guitars since then, over the same span of time. We were
Yeah.
together for almost 20 years, and it's been 20 years since then.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you just I, I can remember, probably like when I bought my 25th guitar, I probably was thinking to myself, well, dang, I've amassed a I've amassed a pretty good collection of guitars. I didn't realize I was doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I realized that, I was like, I'm, that was my first rule of thumb was when I would talk to other people or I would talk to my peers, people that I looked up to, uh, people that we toured with, me and Frankie Hannon from Tesla hit it off really good. And oh man, we would talk about guitars all night. And
Yeah.
he's the same way, man. The guy's got a great collection. And, but he's like, Jay, he's like, you know, the best advice I could ever give you, man, is don't sell your guitars.
Yeah.
And think about how simple of a sentence that is, but it's so true. Don't sell your guitars. It's hard to do for musicians because when I was young, if I wanted a new guitar, I would have to trade one of my other good guitars
Yeah.
and probably some cash to get the guitar that I'm trying to get.
Yeah.
And so you always kind of lose out a little bit on that, you know, value wise, But
Yeah.
I that's what I did, man. I had two rules of thumb. Don't sell anything that I buy and that I love, and keep it. And 10 years down the line, they appreciate if it's an American made. We're talking about Fenders and Gibsons. Uh, I've got that Dean. I've heard Bill, you and Bill talk about that.
Yeah.
That's a 70. I want to say 79 as well, but I could be wrong. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. In between 75 and 79, I think it's late 70s. Uh, but USA made,
Yeah.
and because it's USA made, it's worth a lot more than the cheaper ones. But yeah, I not that I not that I don't think. I mean, I'm a true believer in it's the hands that play the music, and
Yeah.
you can make a cheap guitar sound great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely, I have one. Uh, I have one. This guitar actually means a lot to me. and it's the cheapest guitar I own. It's probably the only guitar that I own that's not made in the U.S. It's a Guild d'Armand. It's their
Yeah.
cheaper.
Yeah.
They're
I've
cheap,
seen them. Yeah.
but I'm going to tell you, man, this guitar has played on I don't know how many records. Other other people that I produced in the studio, you know, Podunk, all the different projects I've been in. It's just got a thing,
Yeah.
and I can't explain it, man. This is a $300 guitar when I got it.
Some guitars
Uh,
just have a secret sauce, man.
they do, and I tell people all the time, these things are made out of wood. You could line up, you know, 10 Gibson Les Pauls, and one of them is going to play the best for you. Out of
Yeah.
all those 10, you're going to pick one that plays the best for you, or sounds the best, or has the mojo. You
Yes.
know, because they're made of wood. It's not like they're machined out of perfect, uh, metal.
Yeah.
They bend, they stretch, they cold and hot weather, and
There's so many variables with a guitar. Um,
yes,
it's funny you mentioned that Dean Cadillac. Um,
I have that here too.
yeah, because it was actually during the pandemic stuff. I was down in Southeast Texas and hanging out with Bill, and Bill's like, "Hey, let's go to Guitar and Banjo." I was like, "Okay, cool." So we went to Guitar and Banjo, and I mean, obviously you know how that place is. Paul's got so much stuff he doesn't really know what all he has, but
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
we're digging through the back, all the guitar cases. Even Mike Zito even came in at one point, and he's digging through cases with us. And
Oh yeah.
um, and I don't remember which one of us pulled it out, but one of us pulled out that Dean Cadillac, and me and Bill both were like, "Oh my, oh!" Like,
Yeah.
and it's like I wanted it so bad, but my wife would have absolutely murdered me if I bought it right then.
Yeah.
But then Bill calls me like 2 weeks later, like, "Man, you're not gonna believe this." I was like, "Okay, what?" Touche bought that Dean. I was like, "Oh." Like, well, at least it stayed in the family.
Hey, no doubt about it, man. No doubt. I had the same reaction to it when I opened up the case as you did. I was like, you know, you just don't you don't see. I love the body style.
Yeah.
You don't see them a lot, and
No.
you surely don't see a vintage one. USA model a whole lot. So I jumped on it, man. I was like, it's a heavy when you plug that thing in.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you what, it wants to run with the dogs like it it's untamable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're wanting to really crunch it up and go wild, that's your guitar, no
Well,
doubt.
another funny kind of full circle moment. The very first Dean Cadillac I ever saw was in 93, 94 at the Podunk practice room.
Brian
Brian
Jones,
Jones had one.
he had a
So,
tobacco burst.
yeah.
Yeah, it was unbound. It was unbound. It wasn't bound,
Yeah.
but it was awesome guitar, man.
Yeah. But
Awesome.
though yours has the narrow headstock, his had the big split headstock.
I wish mine did. I would, I would. I'm always keeping my eye out for one that's got the split
Yeah.
headstock because I
Well, it's
would
one of
like to
those,
have one.
like, I think the split headstocks are a cooler visual, but if we're being honest, the narrow headstocks have better tuning stability.
They really do. Yeah, for
So for
sure.
obvious reasons, they're keeping the
Yeah,
strings a lot straighter.
yeah,
But you were talking about just amassing the guitar collection and that why you got into it. And what I always say is like everybody has something they collect. Like you said, baseball cards, whatever. Everyone has something that they spend their money on. Keith Hilton spends his money on car parts.
yeah. Golf,
Yeah,
hunting
um,
and fishing, and yeah.
yeah, exactly. I spend my money on guitars.
That's it.
And what I tell people is like, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, I don't go to strip clubs, I don't gamble, I don't do any of these things where you spend a bunch of money and it's just gone forever. I buy guitars and
Yeah.
I generally buy nice guitars. So as you say, the vast majority of the time they appreciate and value. And so
Yes.
like my wife and I, we kind of jokingly say this is my alternative retirement plan. There's all these
Yes.
guitars behind me.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe that'll end up being the case. Time will tell.
Oh, it absolutely will. I think, it, it, you know, I'm a Fender Gibson USA guy because, they're just everybody I love that ever picked up an instrument. It's usually those. And don't get me wrong, you have other really cool guitars, Rickenbackers, you know, Dane.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
all the
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff. So, but it's like those USA Strats, those USA Gibsons, they appreciate. And if you don't get rid of them and just try to hold on to them, they're gonna.
Yeah.
And even if not, when you talk about the investment part of this subculture of guitar collectors,
Yeah.
uh, or as we like to call them, guitar players because they play these instruments, it's
Yeah.
like you're always going to be able to at least get what you paid for it. I
Yeah.
mean, worst case scenario, or you might cut somebody a deal on it if you sell it and take a couple $100 off of it because you know them, or But for the most part, you're going to get your return,
Yeah.
uh,
For sure.
for
And
sure.
like you said, there are, to the people, because I see it all the time, and it's similar to what you're talking about. Like, people will get very like, why do you need so many guitars? Like, you're keeping guitars from other people. No, I'm not.
No,
Go to any
there's
guitar store and trust me.
exactly. You
It's
know how
almost
many
like they're
guitars?
making new ones every day.
Oh, they are, it's like, and they're making a ton. It's like I can't tell you, being on the road for so many years, how many music stores, mom and pop joints that I've walked into and wanted to maybe work a sale or a trade out, and they'd be like, "Man, we're not buying any more guitars right now. We're trying to
Yeah.
sell the ones we have,"
Yeah.
you know, and it's true because there's not a billion people out there trying to buy guitars, but
Yeah.
there's a billion guitars out there.
Yep.
So, I agree with you 110%. It's just that cut and dry. I don't think that, like you said, that's what we spend our money on because we don't do the drugs and the drinking and, I don't play golf. I don't have anything else to sink my passion into. And I
Yeah.
think it would even be a little different for me if I didn't write music or, do it for a living. I might be able to kind of look at myself and go, "Hey, dude, you might have a little bit of a problem," you know.
Yeah.
But it's impossible for me to think that way because I use them. I'm always grabbing one and picking it up, trying to write or learning a new song or whatever I'm
Yeah.
doing,
Yeah.
or in the studio playing on somebody else's stuff or my stuff. So
Yeah. Well, it's, I I don't make a living with mine, but that's okay. That's okay.
yeah, no,
I
it's yeah. I mean, and I don't say that. I don't, you know, to make a living with it is fine,
like
but
that.
just
That's
to
the dream,
play
right?
them, I know you play those
Yeah.
guitars, and so yeah, it would to me it wouldn't matter whether you had 20 or you had 30. I mean, it's they all sound different, they all
They do.
play different,
They do.
and you like them for many, many, many different reasons.
Yeah. And as many as I have, I make it a point to rotate them out. I will specifically like, and again, it's what, this is where I work. This is my YouTube studio. This, like, where I record music. I do everything up here. So I'm literally spending, hours a day, 7 days a week up here, depending on what's going on. And I have the guitars in the rack out and available to pick up, but I also have all the others stored in the big racks over here. And I make it a point, like, I don't, even though my 79 Les Paul Standard, that's my favorite guitar of all time, I make it a point to not just play that guitar all the time.
Right,
I make it
right,
a
right.
point to play everything. I did just think of one other little thing, just kind of like a funny anecdote. You are, maybe not an anecdote, maybe that's the wrong word, but you are the only other person that I know personally that has a Blueberry Burst Les Paul.
Oh yeah,
Uh
yeah.
yes, I have. You have the standard, I think, right?
I think it's the traditional.
Okay, yeah. So I have the Trad Pro 5 I got from Guitar Center.
Yeah.
And man, as much as I love my 79 standard, that Blueberry Burst may be my favorite Gibson finish ever.
Oh yeah, I love it. I love
It
that finish.
it's absolutely
That's what
gorgeous.
drew me to the guitar. I was like, "What is that?"
Yeah.
When I first saw it.
Yeah, like the first time I saw one in an advertisement was like my first kind of Wayne's World moment. The "it will be mine." Oh yes,
Yeah,
it will
yeah,
be mine. And I made it work. I What I did actually to get the because my whole thing is, my wife is very conservative financially. She's very frugal, and so it's really really hard for me to like go just spend a bunch of money all at once on a brand new guitar.
yes,
So what I did was over a period of like 6 9 months, I found three guitars in pawn shops. I found a Les Paul Studio, a Les Paul Tribute, and a PRS SE Custom 24.
nice.
And I found all of them for smoking deals. It was right around the beginning of all the pandemic craziness.
Yeah,
Um, but I bought all three of them over a period of, like I said, months at smoking deals, and then sold them all at once, took that money, and then bought my brand new Blueberry Burst Les Paul. And that was actually at that time, that was only the second brand new guitar I had ever bought in my life.
yeah.
And that was
Wow.
just in
Yeah,
2020. So that was just, 5 years ago. So
nice. I don't stop at pawn shops like I need to or used to, but the last time I did, I got a great deal. Right when I walked into the door, it's hanging on the wall. Looking at it, and I'm like, "Oh, here we go."
yeah.
It was a Tobacco Burst, 2008 Fender USA Strat.
Yeah.
And the price was right. I think they wanted. I think I paid $700 for it.
Oh, well, that's not bad at
Six,
all.
$600 or $700, and I was like, when he said the price, I was like, uh, okay, because I was thinking, I have to get this guitar like now because somebody
Yeah.
else is gonna. And I was like, well, can I just put some money down on it and come back?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, yeah, you could do that because I didn't want anybody to get it. In between, me going to the bank.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I was able to snag that one. And but too, man, to go back on what we were saying earlier is, doing it for a living, that's great. But like what you're doing, I mean, you're talking guitars, you've got the cool YouTube channel and the podcast going, and you talk about these guitars. And collectors like me, we watch these videos, we love them. And
Yeah.
we learned something. I definitely am not the be all end all know it all of guitars. So anytime I can learn something new, I jump at the chance. But
Yeah.
but yeah, man, it's it to me it's justified 20 times over that we're able to hop on and check out your videos, man. I mean, we
I
are the
appreciate that.
subculture.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I really do. And I agree. That's like, I mean, I started, as I said before we got going, I started the YouTube channel just because of how much I love just sitting down with my friends and talking about guitars. And
Yeah.
that literally was the inspiration behind my entire YouTube channel. Is just, I mean, it's like I told a friend of mine who he's a stand-up comedian in Houston, and we were kind of talking about trying to make a platform, that kind of thing. And it's like, the reality is I'm going to be sitting around talking about guitars anyway. Like, that's just what I do. So I might as well turn a camera on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's like 100% that was what got me started. And, I had kind of a, I took a mental health break earlier in the year for about 4 months. I didn't do any new videos on the channel. And then when I decided to go ahead and start back up, I was like, I need to get, it's like I still want to do the gear demos, all that kind of stuff, but I also want to get back to the primary reason I started this, which was my love of sitting down with friends and nerding out on guitar gear.
Yeah.
Because as the name of my channel suggests, I absolutely love guitars,
Guitarist. Yeah.
and that's what it's all about. So your and abruptly switching topics, sorry, but
Oh,
um,
yeah.
your collection. Say you have about 40 guitars. Like how does your collection run as far as like Fender to Gibson to other? Like, is it like 50% Fender or
It's probably a little Fender heavy. Uh, I would definitely say that I have more Fenders, but I'm kind of scanning the room here. It's close. I mean,
yeah,
it's pretty close. And it's all Strats and I mean Fender and Gibson. I mean, I have the Dean,
yeah,
I have the D Armand, I have a glue. I'm sorry, I have a another Guild. It's called a Bluesbird. It's kind of looks like a Les Paul. It's like
yeah,
their version. Um, what else do I have that's non Gibson and Fender? Couple of Guild acoustics. I like Guild, obviously.
yeah.
I think that's it. I mean, everything I own is, you know, I always say Fender and Gibson were Ford and Chevy,
Yeah, yeah. That's
and
that's accurate. And I'm kind of the opposite. Like my collection is Gibson heavy. Um, uh, right about half of my collection is Gibson, and then I've got a few Fenders. But I do have I have like a couple. Excuse me. I have a couple of Ibanez. I've got a Kramer. I've got a Charvel. I've got a few.
man, and dude, I'm sure at some point I'm gonna get into some of that because I love those. I love
Yeah,
those guitars. I mean, I grew up in the '80s,
yeah,
so I mean, there were so many bands using that kind of stuff, and I remember, being a kid and just being like, oh man, check out this guitar, check out this guitar. It's this whole guitar thing has literally been with me since I can remember. I mean,
yeah,
I've just always had a thing. It's funny when I graduated high school, I was uh, I'm a July baby, so
yeah,
when I graduated from PNG, I was 17,
yeah,
and my mom it was the coolest gift, man. My mom gave me a little book that was as a gift for graduating, and it
yeah.
was like I opened it up. The first page says, "We brought you home today,"
Nice.
and then you flip the next page, and she's like, when Mom puts music on, you just love it. You're smiling, it just keeps going, and
Yeah,
it's always music.
yeah.
You're acting like you're 3 years old, and you're acting like you're playing the guitar all the time, and so I think it was just one of those deals, man, where it's just like an innate uh, bone marrow type of deal with me. I just had to play music. I had to touch guitars and play drums and sing
Yeah.
and dance. Anything I could do.
That's, it was similar for me growing up. I grew up, there was always music in the house, always. It was a little different because my parents were not into like pop music or rock music in any way. Well, I
Right.
say that my mother growing up, the only thing I ever remember my mother listening to is actually gospel music. Like that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, occasionally she might listen to some like old school country, like Barbara Mandrell or the Gatlin Brothers and stuff like that. My father, it's basically like he listened to the Beach Boys, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
But my mother was a fantastic singer. Unfortunately, as she got older, like something happened to her vocal cords, and she just like she can still sing, but she can't sing like she used to. Um, that's very unfortunate. But like my father, I mean, from since before I was born, he was playing bass in the church band every Sunday. So there was music, there were instruments around the house. And
Right.
it, you know, I was always fascinated by it. I've said before to other people, like I learned how to play guitar on a 69 Gibson SG. Like
Wow.
didn't appreciate it at all at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like that's what I had. Like that was the one electric 6-string guitar in the house was a 69 Gibson SG that my dad had found in a pawn shop. And I played it. He had a big, like you remember the custom bass amps, custom with a K?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he had one of those with like the blue
I,
sparkly
I
vinyl on
had
the outside,
yeah.
like it had like a single 15 or 18-inch speaker in it. But it had a bright channel. So like I would pull the volume or whatever for the bright channel, and I had a Boss heavy metal pedal. And that was my guitar rig for like the first 2 or 3 years I was trying to figure out how to play guitar. A
Yeah.
69 SG, that 70s custom bass amp with the bright channel, and a Boss heavy metal pedal.
That's
Um,
awesome.
and it sounded horrible, but man, I had so much fun.
In the most good way.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's just that's how I learned everything. That's I my very first Metallica riffs were learned
On
on
there.
that setup. So,
Yeah.
um, and it's just I think for some of us, it really is just ingrained in our DNA. Um,
Yes.
my son isn't nearly into music as much as I was, which is unfortunate. Just yeah, I mean, and don't get me wrong, like I fully embrace the things that my son is into, and I try and be into them with him, and we
Right.
still bond over things. I wish he was into music a little more, just because I know the joy that music has brought to my life, and so kind of like I kind of wish that for him. But again, he's into different stuff, and that's totally
Yeah.
cool.
And man,
But
that's usually the case. It's really strange. My girls, same thing. And there's talent there. Bailey could play drums like crazy, and she still does. She'll get behind the kit and rock,
yeah,
but she doesn't. It's not. If she doesn't, it's okay.
yeah,
She's not like I have to. I have to do it. And
yeah,
so I've only known one speed. Mine's just like go, and
yeah, for sure.
so with them it's not like that. But they do love music, and there's always music on. When I go to their houses now, I mean they're definitely in tune with the music they love. But it almost seems like it skips a generation like that sometimes where
Yeah,
and it's the same thing. It's like when I would try to teach one of my girls something on guitar or drums, they get upset with me. And then somebody that they don't know will walk into a room and go, no, you need to put your finger. And they're like, oh, yes, sir. Okay. I'm like, what? Am I in the room? So I think it just had something to do with me being their dad, and they didn't want me telling them how to make nothing.
yeah. It's similar with Andrew. Like, he was taking guitar lessons for a while, and it was the same kind of thing. Like, I tried to sit down and kind of teach him a few things before he got started, and it just like he wasn't having any of it. Like, no interest in having dad teach him anything. But
Yeah,
then once he started the guitar lessons, like he was able to play everything. And, his guitar teacher said, like, he for sure has natural ability. Like the talent is there. It just, he's just not that into music. So like he has the physical dexterity for it.
yeah,
He's just, it just doesn't push his buttons.
yeah,
And
yeah.
again,
And
that's
hey,
okay.
it may be like that now, but you never know, man. I mean, I know people that grew up and didn't take to something, and then all of a sudden they took to something, whether it was music or sports or whatever, and just excelled at it.
Yeah.
It's each person has their own timeline with that stuff, and mine just you know fortunately or unfortunately happened at a very young age. It's like I tell people all the time, I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, but you know I say that because when I listen to music, I can't. It's hard for me to just. Sorry about that. It's hard for me to sometimes just sit back and listen to it the first time for just what it is,
Yeah.
because I fall into what are they miking that snare with? You know, is that I wonder if that's a Marshall, or what microphone is he singing on? I like sometimes it's bad, like, and it gets in the way of me just enjoying the song.
Yes.
You know,
I
so
will frequently admit to, particularly if I go to see a show, if I'm close to the performers, it can be sometimes hard for me to enjoy the show because I'm focused so hard on what the guitar player is doing. I'm like staring at his hands, trying to figure out,
absolutely,
or like, you know, it was a thing for a while. I don't know that people do it much anymore, but for a while it was a thing for guitar players to have like these little walls built around their pedal boards. So like people couldn't see what pedals they were using and stuff.
right, right,
But if they didn't have those little walls around them, like I would always be staring, like what pedals he, he for that part he hits that pedal, and so it's the exact same thing. I'm such a student of the craft that it some like for me to go to a show, it's almost better for me to be way in the back
yes,
because that's the only way that I can just like relax and enjoy the show, and I won't be obsessed with how did he do that, like what
yeah,
was that. um
yeah.
so I completely know
I
it.
think too a lot of things. We just did things so different. I mean, when you know barring sounding like our dads, I guess I'm that guy now too. But I mean, with my kids, and now my daughter's got a son, and you know, it just for me, I mean, everything has changed so fast. Uh, without getting into it too hard or whatever. But it's like when we were young and we were working on our craft, like it was practice, 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 practice.
Yeah.
There wasn't a YouTube. There was no Facebook. There was no, hell, I didn't have DVDs back then. I mean, it was just put your hands on it, spin the record, and see if you can figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think our work ethic of practice, 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 practice is, you know, a testament to the way that we played and did what we do. With kids now, there you don't buy records. There are no record stores. I think there's only maybe three major labels left. Radio DJs are gone. I
Yeah.
mean, it's the when we were still doing it, and when we were going into the 90s and the 2010 era, it was like that was it's like I almost had a front row seat to watching the industry, just not that it went down or whatever, because dude, if you would have when we were touring with King's X,
Yeah.
if we'd have had Facebook then,
Yeah.
to be like, dude, we're in Minnesota tonight, y'all, or what, that would have been so awesome.
Yeah.
But back then we had to like pre like our label would send flyers out before we would go on a tour, and we would have to hope that that venue would put our poster up so
Yeah.
people would know when we're going to be there. And it was just a different, everything was a different way, so
Yeah.
when they ask me now, how do I release this record, I'm like, man, I don't know. Put it on social media. That's all I can say,
Yeah.
because you don't really, it's kind of hard to say how do you release a record. That's a good question now,
It was very much the what you're talking about there, like really reminded me of something that, and again, it was very much a different world back then. Because there's no social media, but there's also, like, realistically, there's no email. Like, the email existed, but it wasn't ubiquitous.
No,
There were no
that's
cell phones. Like, if you're lucky, someone might have a pager. Otherwise, you just call and leave a message and hope they eventually call you back. And we did similar things, like, mailing flyers out to clubs, you know, weeks, months in advance. And we actually had, it was our in Ugly Tribe. It was like our biggest, like, we're doing a brief tour, which was like, we were hitting Austin on Thursday and then Tulsa Friday and Saturday and then coming home.
yeah.
But we we hit the gig in Austin at I'm totally blanking on what the club's called now. It was a cool place back in the day. It was on 6th Street, a couple of blocks down from Black Cat. But we did the gig in Austin. That went fine. But we get off stage, drive straight to Tulsa. And we went to Tulsa because that's where Brad was from. Like, oh yeah, we're going to get all Brad's friends to come out and, have a little bit of a built-in crowd. Well, we pull in Friday afternoon for load in to the club we're supposed to be playing. And there's like all this Western decor everywhere. And we walked in, and it looked like a country club. And we walk in, we're like, we're Ugly Tribe. We're supposed to be playing. Oh no, that show got canceled 2 weeks ago. We switched and became a country club.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so we're like,
It's like a Spinal Tap moment. We
yeah.
had we had so many of those moments.
Well, it gets better too, because um Brad, like, Shane had Brad get on the phone and just start calling around to try and find a gig so we could at least make like $20 to try and make some gas money to get home. And then Shane immediately got on the phone to call the club we were booked at for Saturday to make sure that gig was on. And when he talked to, and he'd been trying to call the guy to, like, touch base for like weeks at this point, and never could get a hold of him. And finally the guy answered Friday afternoon. He's like, oh no, I canceled your show. You never sent me flyers. He's like, dude, it's like, I sent you flyers and then talked to you a week later. You said you never got them. And I sent you more flyers. Nope, you
Yeah.
never sent us flyers. So no, you're canceled. You can't play. So we drove all the way to Tulsa for 2 gigs and got there and had no gigs.
Oh my God.
But through just like talking to people and begging, pleading, there were 2 bands that were doing like covers sets and getting paid decent money. Um, that they agreed to, like, take a half-hour break and give us $50 to come up and play a set. So we ended up making $100 to give us just enough gas money to get home. Um, so yeah, it's a very, very, very different world now than it
And
was
this
when
is
you and
it's
I were
funny
young.
because this is how I save face, so because I always joke with everybody about, being like our dads and being like, oh, well, when I was young, I had to walk in the snow to school barefooted and.
Uphill both ways.
Yeah, but I will say this, that's our story. Our
Yeah.
story happened back then, and we used what we had. You
Yeah.
know, our kids now, they have their own story, and it's going to be things like AI and the cloud, and
Yeah.
I remember I remember when I used to have an iPhone 15.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know and so yeah, man, I say all that stuff, and I try not to go there too hardcore, because I don't want people to think I'm not with the the younger generation. But our story, man, was work hard, practice, you know live it, eat it, sleep it, you know, and it wasn't a competition either. I
Yeah.
remember when you're in a small town, there always seems to be competition. And when we moved to Austin, we found out real quick that all the bands, and at the time, this is like 93, so it was like Podunk, Vallejo, Push Monkey, uh,
Sunflower,
Sunflower, Ian Moore, uh, Sister Seven, uh,
Steamroller. I think I don't know if they were.
Steamroller,
Yeah,
absolutely. They were awesome. Uh,
the Scabs. Were they around
Scabs
then?
were
Yeah,
doing their thing. The not
yeah. Ugly Americans. I remember them
yeah,
too.
Ugly Americans. Well, of course, and then he had the Joe Rockhead and all that, which was kind of fading when we got there. But uh, Soul Hat,
Oh yeah.
Bone Crusher. I mean, anyway, when we moved out there, we were lucky enough that uh, radio picked us up like really fast, and we didn't see it coming. We moved up there, and it was funny. It was a funny story about that. But me and Paul were sitting in Gross, Texas, sitting on the hood of his car at about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and we were just like, "We have to go. We have to go to Austin.
Yeah.
We're not going to do anything here." And right then and there, I think we counted our money, and it was like $19 and some change.
Yeah.
We put every bit of it in his gas tank. I went inside the house. I woke my dad up and said, "Dad, I'm moving to Austin." And he's looking he's like wiping his eyes. He's like, "What? What time is it?" I'm like, "Just go back to bed. I'm just letting you know I'm leaving."
Yeah.
And we did, man. We got in his car and we left right then at 3 something in the morning. And,
Yeah. And Paul's still here.
yes, he is. And we slept on a friend's floor that allowed us to do so. We got a job at the car wash
No.
on Guadalupe, near the university, and pretty much wash cars for tips. And we took our first 2 week paycheck and we combined them, and we found a band house. We put every penny on that house and called the guys up and said, "Come on, we got a band house. Let's
That
go."
that was a house
And
down on William Cannon, right?
yep.
Yep, I
and
remember.
and and it's funny, man, because I think about how resilient and just hard work. I mean, we slept on that floor and we didn't care. And I've got pictures of Podunk, you know, when we first started out, and we're touring and just trying to, like you guys, we're just trying to get any gig we could, and uh, it. I lost my train of thought.
No, no worries, no
Just
worries.
just get
Um,
any gig that we could,
yeah,
and just work at it. I mean, and I think that that's what's different, now, because of so much technology, and everything's right now. If I want to know, how the space shuttle works, I just Google it, and Google's got me hooked up that they could tell me exactly what I need to know, and I can have that information right now.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I think where if we wanted that kind of information back then, I mean, you had to go to a library. You had
Had
to
to
have a
know somebody
library
who had
card.
the Encyclopedia Britannica,
Yes, yeah. It's just a different world, and it seems like the more technology that we get, the faster we get to the next thing,
Yeah,
and it's like a greenhouse effect,
yeah, sure.
and when our kids are having kids, there's no telling, you know,
Yeah,
what's, if they'll still be driving their own car, and, all that technology it's upon us.
yeah,
We have that now,
yeah,
so it'd be interesting to see where that goes. But yeah, so
yeah,
I just wanted to say that little bit of information, like, because I understand, we're talking about our days coming up, and it's a generational thing, and
for
of
sure.
course, of course our generation was the funnest and the bestest,
Of course, of
because
course,
that's where we came up,
of
and
course.
it's funny because I know, when my girls get together, they, they're talking about, remember when we used to, wake up in the morning and watch SpongeBob SquarePants, it's like, it's just, that's
Yeah,
their growing up,
yeah, yeah.
so.
Well, we've been going for about an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes. I think we're hitting a good stopping point. There is one last thing I want to ask you about, though. Um, and I feel like this is a good way to just a nice, fun way to finish up. Um, I have heard reports that when recording the first Podunk album, Breach, that you tracked your vocals in the nude. How true is or is not that?
That is not true.
Okay.
Now I might have. I I know I didn't do anything like that.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think back. Was I crazy enough to maybe pull my pants down for a second for a laugh
Or for punk rock points, you know?
or for PRPs, man? That was probably that you hit it on the head. That's probably if any of that transpired, it was because of that.
There you go. There you
But
go.
but no, I didn't do that. I'm a I'm not like
Okay.
that.
That's fair. It's just something I've always been curious about if it was actually true or not. I can't remember. It may have
it's
been
so
it may have been
it's
Keith
so
who said that. I don't remember.
Yeah, it's so funny about that record because I think everybody's got one that they don't claim,
Yeah.
and I don't claim that record because we didn't, man, we were so young. I think I was 18, 19, or I just turned 19. I mean, we weren't even old enough to drink, and
Yeah.
we're in here trying to make this record. We didn't know what we were doing, and we were doing it with people that didn't know who we were, or what we aspired to get out of it, and it was just a
Yeah.
cluster. But it's funny because I still also understand that we had to have that record. It had to happen.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
much as I don't like it, it had to happen
Yeah.
for us to get to where we got to. It
Yeah.
was just a step in that direction. But it's funny because I ran into somebody. This is probably a couple years ago. He's like, "Yeah, man, did you know what I've been jamming lately?" And I'm like, "Oh, what's that?" And he's like, "Breach, man." And I was like, "Oh God." I said, "Don't do that to yourself." And he's like, "Man, but no, dude, they used to have this girl, man, and she sang." And I was like, "Oh no, 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 that was me." And they were like, "Oh no, 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 it was a girl." And I was like, "No, man, I'm telling you, I was there. I know it was me." And they're like, "No, man, really, it's a girl." And I'm like, "Okay." They just didn't understand. I'm like, "Look, dude, I was 18." I said, "I guess my voice hadn't changed yet or what, but I promise you that was me."
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just thought that was so funny. That and I had a young kid. This is when you know you're getting old. I
Yeah.
had a younger kid say, "Man, that throwing bones, man, I really like it. It's it really, it's really got that '90s kind of vibe." And I was like, "Well, we did
Funny you
record
should
it
mention that.
we did record it in the '90s,
Yeah.
1998, and they were like, 'Oh yeah.'"
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you ever come across a copy of the 4-song demo you guys did in between Breach and Merlin's Dock, you have to get me a copy of it because that was my favorite tape for a while. And I literally I played that tape until the tape literally broke.
Yeah, I remember that tape. So I have to ask you one question
Sure.
since we're talking about guitars. Is there one specific guitar that you're on the hunt for? Or that you have to have in your collection at some point?
I mean, I think my biggest, I've hit so many of my bucket list guitars at this point. I think the biggest one that's still, do you remember that black Les Paul custom that Brian Jones had
Oh yeah.
that I bought from him, but like I traded him Les Paul Special and then some money, but I owed him like $400, and a bunch of stuff kind of happened in my life, and I couldn't get the money to him, so I had to give the guitar back. So like that one has always been like the guitar that got away, and so
Okay, I think yeah, he brought that up here. I want to say a couple of years ago when we were setting up my Pro Tools.
yeah.
Is it the same one?
Is it a
I don't.
black Les Paul? Well,
It was a Black Beauty. Yeah, it was a custom Les Paul,
when
but
I
I
gave
can't
it
remember.
back to him, I think he said he was going to be selling it to somebody, like somebody else had the
Okay, because
money.
I think the one that he had a Bixby on it.
Okay, so yeah, this the one I'm talking about did not have a Bixby. It was
Okay.
it was I think it was like an early '80s Norland Les Paul custom, because it was not like a new shiny pretty. It was like a well used, but it was just I love that guitar. So a Black Beauty Les Paul custom is kind of like the final bucket list guitar that I have yet to check off.
Yeah.
Otherwise, me being such a pawn shop guy, I'm just like I'm always just looking, and if something particular catches my eye, if it's the right price, sure. I'm not, other than another Black Beauty Les Paul custom, I'm not specifically looking for much. It's just about what catches me when I'm out there hunting. Case in point, one of my most recent acquisitions is like a Pepto Bismol pink Charvel. I assure you, I was not on the hunt for a Pepto Bismol pink Charvel, but I
Yeah.
found it, and
And
they
you knew
want it.
right away.
Yeah,
Gotta
and
have it.
I think I got it for like $400. Like, and
Wow.
those are like 1400, 13 to 1400 used on Reverb right now. So it's
Oh
like
yeah.
I got it at such a deal. I couldn't pass it up. But I'm always I'm always interested in anything with the Gibson logo on it because I'm just a huge Gibson guy. But otherwise,
It's
like I said, just it really just depends on what catches me at the time.
yeah.
I'd
I'm
love to find a good USA Dean at some point.
yeah.
But
Yeah. I mean obviously a real Les Paul 59 is I'll probably never ever reach that pinnacle.
yeah,
But I could reach a reissue 59, but I mean
yeah,
even those are going they start at 6 grand,
yeah,
I mean
yeah,
don't get me wrong, there's some that you can get into for, maybe 4 grand and up, but it's hard to find one for even four. I mean they're up there.
yeah. I think
Uh,
Bill had an
but
R9 at some point.
he did. It was awesome.
I think it was
Uh,
that gold top, wasn't it?
no, that was his 57.
It was 57. Okay, okay, maybe that's what it was.
I
He
think his
brought
uh his 59 was like a lemon
okay,
burst.
okay. I know he
I
brought
have a 58 and a 60.
yeah,
So I would like the 57 and the 59 to kind of complete that set.
yeah.
But uh yeah, man. I mean,
Well,
even Strats are they think they're Gibson now. I mean, used
yeah,
to Strats you could get for, working man blue collar guitar, but now it's their stuff is getting up there too. But I will say this about both Gibson and Fender is their new stuff is, I mean, if you get it plecked,
yeah,
like these things are coming off the floor solid, man. Like,
yeah,
uh, but yeah, that and the only other thing it made me think of is, when we talk about, those investments in USA guitars and stuff like that. A lot of the time, it's the one it's not a pet peeve. It's just something that always kind of stuck with me, growing up, because I was always like, it's worth saving up your hard-earned money to go get the guitar that you want or that amp that you want.
yeah,
Uh, and I remember having talks with some peers of mine that were like, I'd be talking about, oh man, that Snoop Bogner amp, man, it's so awesome. I gotta have it. I played it. A buddy had one, and man, I plugged, a Les Paul right into it, no pedal, just guitar and amp, and it just blew my mind, and I gotta have one. But they're like, start out at $3,000, and they're like, Jason, okay, that what are you gonna do? Save up $2,000 and go buy the parade version of that,
Yeah.
and then kick yourself in the teeth because that's not what you wanted? Like, save that up and go get it, and then when you get it, keep it.
Yeah.
Don't sell it. Just
Yeah.
keep it because you love it.
Yeah.
And that really hit with me. And like people would be like, "Hey man, check out this guitar, man. It sounds just like a Strat." Well, if you want to buy a guitar, why don't you just go buy a Strat? If you
Yeah.
if you want it to sound like a Strat, just go buy a Strat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that always kind of bewildered me with people because they do it all the time with Les Pauls too. Oh man, it sounds just like a Les Paul. Well, what is it? Is it a Les Paul? No, it's a Nags. Oh, okay. You know, so I don't know. That always kind of like was one thing I would tell kids. Hey, it's worth it, man. It's if
Buy
that's what
once,
you
cry
want,
once.
save up for it, and it's an investment that you'll get a return on for
Yeah. Yeah.
life. You
Yeah.
know,
That buy once, cry once. That's, just get what you want.
that's also just my humble opinion, and I believe me, I understand that my opinion is not good.
But
It's just my opinion.
at the end of the day, Jason, it's all of this is.
That's it.
Like everything, instruments are so subjective as far as like
Yes,
what is right, what is good. It's all any of it is opinion. And
yes,
there's some things that we've
and it's
all
art.
yes.
That's what I was going to say earlier about the competition. That when I
Yeah.
said I lost my train of thought,
Yeah.
that's the thing, man. It's like it's not a competition, man. Music is art, and
Yeah.
if we're in a museum and me and you and uh, Ethan are looking at a Rembrandt painting, and I look at it and I'm like, man, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, and you're like, eh, I've seen better. And then we look over at Ethan and he's peeing on it. It's art,
Yeah.
and to me, it's like they say, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Music is in the ear of the listener. And
Yeah.
it's subjective and everybody is
Absolutely.
going to have their opinion, but it's definitely not football. It's not sports. It's
Yeah.
not your band is better than mine, or we're going to go up on stage and kick your butt. And I mean, I never like we were never like that. We were always embracing other bands and saying, "Hey, man, you know, we love your band. Play with us. Get some of our crowd.
Yeah.
Let us play with you, and we'll get some of your crowd, and let's help you. Let's." And I think when we moved to Austin, we really felt that
Yeah.
love of with the Vallejo and Push Monkey fellas and Sunflower guys. We all became really, really good friends, and played a lot of really fun shows together. And it was a cool scene back then. Now I don't know how Austin is today, and I haven't been back there in a good while. But
Yeah.
I've heard it's changed. It's definitely not the same.
I mean, it's
But
been
man,
a
you
while
could
since. Sorry.
you could go.
Please
I'm
go ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead.
There was a time where you could go on Sixth Street and just, man, it'd be like ska, metal, jazz, rock, country, just club after club. You could
Yeah.
go see whatever kind of music you wanted.
Yeah.
And
That is very different now. I was gonna say it's been a while since I've really been in the scene. Again, when Andrew was born, I just didn't want to do it anymore. Like
yeah,
not
yeah,
not like I was doing at that time,
yeah,
but even then it was definitely changing. All the condominiums got built downtown, so all the people who chose to move into like this crazy downtown Austin, then immediately started complaining about all the noise on Friday and Saturday nights. So they started passing all these noise ordinances, and that was really the kind of the final nail in the coffin of like Sixth Street as a live music scene. I mean, you can certainly still go find live bands on Sixth Street on Fridays and Saturday nights, but it's not remotely like it was in the 90s and 2000s.
Yeah, it's more like a destination kind of thing. If you know a band's playing way down there, you just go see that band.
Yeah, yeah.
There's not kind of you're not kind of club hopping or doing that. But golly, man, back in the day, it was like Babes, Steamboat.
That's the
Uh,
club. I couldn't think of the name where we played.
oh, okay,
Babe,
Steamboat. Oh,
Babe.
Babes.
Yeah,
Oh, we used to love Babes, man. We had some fun shows there. Sneakers, Maggie Mays,
yeah,
Liberty Lunch. There were so many, man. Emos,
yeah.
uh, Antones. I mean, but things change. I mean,
They do.
that's how it is. I think at the end of the day, my best uh, vibe on guitars is this is I could be having the worst day of my life. Everything's going wrong, and it's just like you could hear the circus music da, 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 in the
Yep,
background,
yep.
and I can grab a guitar, close my eyes, 5 minutes, I'm good.
I agree. Like it's almost like therapy in a way, because
Yes.
I've got one of those brains that just never stops. Like the little voice in the back of my head never shuts up, and you're not enough. You do this wrong.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
One of the only times that voice ever shuts up is I pick up a guitar and I just zone into the music, and my brain just it stops. It just turns off. And like I said,
Yes.
it's almost like therapy. It just calms me down. Whatever's going on, it's cool. I can handle it. I'll get to it. And like I said, it's just that little nagging voice in the back of my head. It turns it
Yeah.
off. And
And
there's
it's
nothing in the world like it.
nothing. And music on a whole, it's like I tell people all the time, this is what blows my mind is that, I could go get on an airplane and fly to Brazil, Australia, Japan, and I don't know any of that language. None of it. But if Back in Black came on,
Yep.
the Brazilian, the Australian, and the Japanese person would all three look at me as I would them, and we would all smile because we all know that song.
Da-da-da, da-da-da.
Everybody knows that song.
Oh yeah.
And everybody, you know what I'm saying? It could be Thunderstruck. It doesn't even have to be AC/DC.
Yeah.
There's a billion of those songs. And it just goes to show you, man, that music is a universal language and we do it, we love it, and that's it, man.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I appreciate it. We've been going, like I said, about an hour and a half now. So I think we can go ahead and call it. I thank you so much for joining. It's been great talking to you. It's been so long since we've had the chance to actually talk.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but if you want to tell people how they can check you out or what you're doing these days, great time to do it now.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I always forget I started a guitar page on Facebook a long time ago called Guitar Collectors USA.
Yes.
I know Mike's on it, but it's kind of been a little dormant lately. I need to kind of jump back on that, and
Yeah.
I plan to. So if you're around and you collect guitars and you like to show your guitars off and talk about them like me and Mike are, come by the page and
Yeah. I think I'm
check it
actually
out.
one of the most active posters in that group.
Oh
So,
yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah. Great. Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for joining us, Jason. It's been great talking to you, and I hope we can do it again soon.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks.
Babe,
Yes.
is there a guitar under my bed?
Yes.
Why is there a guitar under my bed?
Because I ran out of room in the closet.
Whatever.